My breath caught as the cold truth settled in. My husband had stolen my credit card to buy the car I refused to give him. Furious, I confronted him, my voice trembling with anger. But what I didn't expect was the rage in his eyes. Before I could react, his fist came crashing down on my nose, sending me staggering backward, clutching my stomach in fear for my baby. Blood dripped down my face as pain shot through me, but it was nothing compared to the terror of what he might do next. I tried to run, but what happened after that changed everything. Hello, my name is Sophia Lane, and I'm 30 years old. If you had met me a few years ago, you would have seen a confident, career-driven woman working as a senior project manager in a thriving tech firm in Greenvale, a small but bustling city. I was independent, ambitious, and focused on building a life that would make me proud. I never imagined that the decisions I made back then would lead me to where I am today, standing at the edge of a storm, but also at the beginning of a brighter future. But before I get into that, let me take you back to where it all began. I met Daniel Porter at a friend's wedding. He was the kind of man who could light up a room with his smile and charm. Tall, with dark hair and a casual confidence, he seemed like someone who had his life figured out. I was 26 at the time, and I was drawn to him almost instantly. We danced, exchanged numbers, and soon after, we were meeting regularly for coffee dates, late-night walks, and weekend getaways. He was different from anyone I had ever met, at least that's what I believed. Daniel had dreams of starting his own business and traveling the world. I was working long hours at my job, and dating someone with such ambition felt exciting. We talked about our future endlessly, making plans as if life would always go according to our wishes. A year later, he proposed to me in the same spot where we had our first date, a small cafe downtown. I remember feeling overjoyed, thinking I had found my soulmate, the person who would stand by me through thick and thin. I had no idea that this perfect love story would turn into a cautionary tale. After our engagement, things moved quickly. We planned a beautiful, intimate wedding with close family and friends. I can still picture the way Daniel looked at me as I walked down the aisle, his eyes filled with love and excitement. I felt like I had made the best decision of my life. Our honeymoon was a dream, 2 weeks in Hawaii, sipping cocktails by the beach, laughing, and creating memories. For the first few months of our marriage, everything seemed perfect. We settled into our cozy 2-bedroom apartment in Greenvale, and life was filled with laughter and love. Daniel continued talking about his plans to start a business, but for the time being, he was working part-time as a consultant. I was okay with that. I believed in his dreams and wanted to support him while he figured things out. I was earning enough to cover most of our expenses, and as long as we were happy, I didn't mind being the primary breadwinner. We spent weekends decorating our apartment, binge-watching TV shows, and hosting dinners for friends. I felt like we were a team, 2 people building a life together. I loved coming home to him after a long day at work and sharing stories about our day over dinner. But like they say, good things don't always last. It started subtly. Small arguments over chores, decisions about finances, and how often we visited his mother. I brushed it off, thinking all couples go through ups and downs. I told myself it was normal, but deep down, I knew something was shifting. The honeymoon phase was coming to an end, and I wasn't prepared for what would come next. The cracks in our relationship widened the moment Lillian Porter, Daniel's mother, entered the picture. Lillian had always been polite when we were dating, but marriage seemed to change her view of me. Suddenly, I wasn't the perfect woman for her son. I was just the woman who was never enough. It started with subtle comments during weekend family dinners. "You work too much, Sophia. You should focus more on your home. What's the point of a job if you can't take care of your husband properly?" I would smile politely and try to ignore her, but those words stung. Over time, her criticisms became sharper. If Daniel forgot something or the apartment wasn't spotless, she blamed me. She hinted that I was selfish for focusing on my career instead of being a traditional wife. What hurt the most wasn't her words, it was Daniel's silence. He never defended me. Instead, he would sit there, nodding along as if his mother's opinions were facts. And when we returned home, any attempt to talk about it would turn into an argument. "I don't want to fight, Sophia," he would say, exasperated. "She's just worried about us." Worried? She's undermining me, Daniel. You don't see it. You're overreacting. She's my mother. She means well. But I knew better. Lillian didn't mean well. Her constant disapproval was slowly suffocating me, and Daniel's unwillingness to set boundaries only made it worse. The warmth in our marriage began to cool, replaced by tension that never seemed to go away. The shift wasn't just emotional, it was financial too. Daniel started relying on me for more expenses, claiming his consulting job wasn't bringing in enough income. I didn't mind at first. I believed we were a team, and I wanted to help him until he found stability. But I soon realized that my role was shifting from a loving partner to a provider. And as Lillian's grip on him tightened, Daniel's behavior toward me changed. 2 years into our marriage, I found out I was pregnant. The news should have been a joyful milestone, but instead, it felt like another test of my strength. When I told Daniel, he hugged me tightly, but I couldn't ignore the flicker of hesitation in his eyes. "I'm happy," he said, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. I didn't understand why he wasn't as thrilled as I was, but I chose to stay positive. I thought maybe this baby would bring us closer, help us rebuild what we had lost. But that hope quickly faded. The pregnancy wasn't easy. I was often tired and nauseous, struggling to balance my demanding job and the physical toll of carrying a child. Instead of supporting me, Daniel grew more distant. He spent more time away from home, claiming he needed space to figure things out. When he was home, he either ignored me or criticized me for not keeping the house clean. Lillian, of course, had plenty to say. "Pregnancy isn't an excuse to be lazy, Sophia," she said one afternoon when she visited unannounced. "You have to take care of yourself and your husband." I fought back tears, trying to hold myself together. The emotional pressure was unbearable, and Daniel wasn't making it any easier. His demands became more unreasonable. He wanted new furniture, vacations, and a luxury car, all while I was trying to save money for our baby's future. When I told him we couldn't afford these things, he would snap. "You make good money, Sophia. Stop acting like we're poor." But I knew the truth. We weren't poor, but we weren't in a position to splurge either. I was already covering the mortgage, utilities, and medical expenses related to my pregnancy. The last thing we needed was more financial strain. The real breaking point came when Daniel started obsessing over the idea of buying a luxury car. He insisted it was necessary for our growing family, but I knew it was just another status symbol for him. No matter how many times I said no, he wouldn't let it go. As my pregnancy progressed, Daniel's obsession with a car became unbearable. By the time I was 8 months pregnant, I could hardly walk without feeling exhausted, and yet he still found ways to pressure me. He would bring up the topic over dinner during car rides, even when I was trying to rest. "I've found the perfect one, Sophia," he said one evening, holding his phone up to show me pictures of a sleek black luxury SUV. "It's exactly what we need. We don't need a $45,000 car, Daniel," I said, barely managing to sit up on the couch. "The baby is due in a few weeks. We should be saving, not spending." He sighed dramatically, pacing the room. "You just don't understand, do you? This isn't just for me. It's for us, for our family." I shook my head. "No, Daniel. We can't afford it. I'm already covering everything, and we don't need any more debt." His jaw tightened, and he stormed off, slamming the bedroom door behind him. I thought that would be the end of it, that he would eventually give up on the idea. But Daniel was never the type to take no for an answer. 2 days later, I was lying on the couch, trying to ease the back pain that had become a constant companion during my pregnancy, when my phone buzzed. It was a call from the credit card company. "Hi, Ms. Lane. We're calling to confirm a $45,000 transaction for a vehicle down payment at Greenvale Luxury Motors. Was this authorized?" I sat up so fast that I winced, clutching my belly. "No," I said, my voice shaking. "That wasn't me. Please cancel the transaction immediately. We'll need to investigate the claim, but it appears the purchase has already been processed." I barely heard the rest of the conversation. My heart was racing, and my mind was spinning. Daniel had stolen my credit card to buy the car. After everything I had done to support him, he had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I hung up the phone and wiped the tears from my cheeks. My baby kicked inside me, as if sensing my distress, and I gently placed my hand on my stomach. "It's okay," I whispered. "I won't let anything happen to us." When Daniel walked through the front door that evening, I was waiting for him. He didn't even try to hide it. As soon as I confronted him, he shrugged like it was no big deal. "I needed the car, Sophia. You weren't listening, so I had to take matters into my own hands." I stared at him, my breath heavy. "You stole from me, Daniel. I'm 8 months pregnant, and you thought this was the time to betray me?" "Betray you?" he scoffed, stepping closer. "You're the one holding me back. All you care about is saving money for yourself. For our baby," I shouted, my voice cracking. "I'm trying to give our child a secure future, and you're acting like a spoiled child." His face twisted with anger, and before I could react, he raised his fist and punched me hard on the nose. The pain was immediate, sharp, and blinding. I staggered back, clutching my face as tears streamed down my cheeks. "Daniel, stop!" I cried, but he wasn't done. He reached for me again, his hand raised, but something inside me snapped. I turned and bolted toward the bedroom, my hands instinctively protecting my belly. I locked the door behind me and collapsed on the floor, sobbing. Blood dripped from my nose, but all I could think about was my baby. I had to protect her. I had to survive. With trembling fingers, I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. My breath hitched as I pressed the phone against my ear. The operator's calm voice was a lifeline amid the chaos. "911, what's your emergency?" I could barely get the words out. "And my husband, he hit me. I'm 8 months pregnant. He's trying to hurt me." "Stay on the line, ma'am," the operator said, her tone steady. "Help is on the way. Are you safe right now?" I locked myself in the bedroom, I whispered, my hands trembling as I wiped the blood from my nose. My heart pounded so hard that I thought it might give out. "Good. Don't open the door. Stay where you are until the police arrive." Time slowed as I crouched by the door, listening to Daniel's heavy footsteps pacing the hallway. My baby kicked again, as though reminding me that she was still there, still fighting alongside me. I cradled my stomach and whispered, "I'm not letting him hurt you." Minutes felt like hours until I heard the distant sound of sirens. The footsteps outside the bedroom stopped abruptly, followed by the sound of Daniel cursing under his breath. I heard him rush down the stairs and fling open the front door, but it was too late. A commanding voice called out from the hallway. "This is the police. Hands where we can see them." I unlocked the bedroom door and stepped out, my body shaking. When I reached the top of the stairs, I saw Daniel pinned against the wall, 2 officers handcuffing him as he struggled and yelled. "You can't do this," he shouted. "She's my wife. This is a misunderstanding." One of the officers glanced up at me, his gaze softening when he saw the blood on my face. "Are you okay, ma'am?" I nodded, though my entire body was trembling. "He punched me and I'm pregnant. He's been stealing from me. Please don't let him get away with this." Daniel twisted his head to look at me, his eyes blazing. "You'll regret this, Sophia." But I wasn't afraid anymore. I wiped the tears from my cheeks and stared him down. "No, Daniel. You'll regret it. I'm going to make sure you face every legal consequence for what you've done." As the police led him away, I felt a strange sense of relief wash over me. I knew this wasn't the end, but it was the start of my fight for freedom. After the police left, I collapsed onto the couch, clutching my stomach as exhaustion and pain overwhelmed me. My phone buzzed beside me, and without thinking, I dialed the only person who came to mind, Ethan Brooks, my college friend. We hadn't spoken much in recent years, but I knew I could trust him. He had always been the kind of person who showed up when it mattered. He answered on the first ring. "Sophia? Is everything okay?" The sound of his voice brought fresh tears to my eyes. "No," I whispered. "I need help." "I'm on my way," he said without hesitation. Within 30 minutes, Ethan was at my doorstep, his face filled with concern as he pulled me into a gentle hug. I winced from the pain in my nose, and he quickly led me inside. "What happened?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. I told him everything: the stolen credit card, the violent confrontation, the police arrest. He sat beside me, listening intently without interrupting. When I finished, he placed a hand on mine and said, "You don't have to do this alone, Sophia. I'm here for you." And in that moment, I believed him. The next morning, Ethan was already on the phone, calling a lawyer he knew who specialized in domestic violence and financial fraud cases. I sat on the couch, my swollen feet propped up, holding a warm compress to my bruised nose. Ethan handed me a glass of water and sat next to me. "The lawyer's name is Jonathan Reeves," he said. "He's agreed to meet us this afternoon. We're going to make sure Daniel gets what he deserves." I felt a wave of gratitude. "Thank you, Ethan. I don't know what I'd do without you." "You don't have to thank me," he said, squeezing my hand. "We'll get through this together." At the lawyer's office, I recounted everything: how Daniel had stolen my credit card, assaulted me while I was pregnant, and threatened me even as he was being arrested. Jonathan nodded as he took notes, occasionally asking questions to fill in details. "We have a strong case," he said after I finished. "The police report, medical records, and credit card fraud will work in your favor. We'll file for divorce and push for criminal charges simultaneously." He looked directly at me, his gaze reassuring. "Don't worry, Sophia. He won't get away with this." Ethan sat beside me during the entire meeting, quietly supportive. After we left the office, he took me out for lunch, and for the first time in days, I felt a sense of normalcy. We laughed about old college memories, and for a moment, I forgot the nightmare I was living. But the relief was temporary. The court proceedings began quickly, and every day felt like a battle. I had to relive the trauma as I gave my statement, describing the night Daniel hit me and the months of emotional abuse I had endured. There were moments when I wanted to give up, when the weight of it all felt too heavy. But every time I felt like I couldn't do it, Ethan was there. He stayed with me during late nights of paperwork, made sure I ate properly, and even went with me to my doctor's appointments to check on the baby. "We're almost there," he would say, giving me a reassuring smile. "Just a little longer." 3 weeks before the final hearing, I went into labor. It was earlier than expected, but I wasn't surprised. The stress had taken its toll on me. Ethan rushed me to the hospital, holding my hand as I breathed through the contractions. "It's going to be okay," he whispered, brushing a strand of hair from my forehead. "You're strong, Sophia. You've got this." Hours later, I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Tears streamed down my face as I held her for the first time, her tiny fingers wrapping around mine. "We made it," I whispered. "We're safe now." Ethan stood beside me, his eyes filled with emotion. "She's perfect," he said softly. In that moment, I knew I wasn't alone. I had someone who cared for me and my daughter, someone who had been there through the worst of it. 3 weeks after my daughter's birth, the final court hearing arrived. I walked into the courtroom with my lawyer and Ethan by my side, holding a folder full of evidence: police reports, medical records, and the credit card fraud statement. Daniel sat across the room, but I didn't feel fear. I felt strength. The prosecution presented a solid case, detailing the financial fraud and domestic violence I had endured. The judge listened carefully, and when it was my turn to speak, I took a deep breath and told my story. I spoke about the betrayal, the violence, and the impact it had on me and my unborn child. When the judge announced the verdict, divorce granted and Daniel sentenced to prison for financial fraud and domestic violence, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It was over. He couldn't hurt me or my daughter anymore. As we left the courthouse, Ethan pulled me into a hug. "You did it," he whispered. "It's over." I looked up at him, tears of relief streaming down my face. "I couldn't have done it without you." A few weeks later, Ethan invited me to dinner at his place. As we sat on his balcony, watching the city lights, he reached across the table and took my hand. "Sophia," he said softly, "I've watched you fight harder than anyone I know. You're strong, brave, and an amazing mother. I don't want to be just your friend. I want to be part of your life, part of your daughter's life." He pulled out a small velvet box and opened it to reveal a simple, yet beautiful diamond ring. Will you marry me? Tears filled my eyes as I nodded. Yes. The story that had started as a nightmare ended with hope, love, and a fresh start. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving with a family that truly loved me. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed the story, please don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel for more captivating stories. Your support means the world to me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.